This is the BestArc BTC500DP, and this is a 50 amp no-touch plasma cutter, and this is my favorite one I've used yet. I do want to start off by saying that BestArc did send this to me at no charge for the purpose of doing some videos. However, as always, the opinions and thoughts in this video are my own and unbiased. So the big reason this is my favorite machine is it has this display. This is what sets it apart from the other Cut 50 machines that are out there in this price range. Most of the time you get an analog gauge on the front, a little 2-digit amperage display, and a knob to adjust that amperage, and that's it. This machine has a lot more features, a lot nicer looking display, as well as air adjustment up here on the front of the machine, which is super handy and more efficient and convenient to use. On the back you do have a water separator, and one of the things that I was so excited about is that it comes with a male air chuck adapter on the back installed already. You don't have to put Teflon tape on fittings. There's no hose barbs. This thing is ready to go out of the box except for hooking up your leads here on the front, which is super straightforward and simple. The only other thing on the back of the machine is the fan as well as the on-off switch. Now this is a 110 and 220 machine. On 110 you'll be able to use this up to 35 amps, and then on 220 it is 50 amps. So we're not going to go too far into a bunch of cut tests and all that stuff. I do have some cut tests that I did with this machine just to make sure it worked and functioned. At heart, this is still a Cut 50 machine. They're pretty much all the same as far as the actual cutting capacities and process goes. I'm going to focus more on the features of this machine. This machine works just as well as the other Cut 50s I've had. This is the third one I've had now, and this one just happens to be my favorite due to some of these extra convenience features. So before we go through the features, let's just do a quick rundown of what this thing comes with. So of course you get your lead. This is an AG60P torch, and it means that your consumables are readily available, very inexpensive. So awesome there. Seems like it's high quality, no complaints about this, it works well. You're also going to get a length of hose, and this is kind of funny because they don't give you any hose barbs because you don't need them, and it's already got your compressor adapter on the back of the machine as long as it's compatible with your couplers. So this is just kind of in there, I'm sure, as a standard package they put in with some other machines. Not needed, so I'm just going to throw this in my spares pile for any other future projects. You're also going to get your ground clamp, of course. It is of sufficient length, and I am very pleased with the length of both the torch and the ground clamp in this. And then you're going to get your adapter. Now this is the adapter to go to 110, so the 220 cord is what is built onto this machine, and then it adapts it down to a 110 outlet. This machine is auto switching, so there's no physical adjustment you need to make. You can just plug it into whichever you're going to use. The machine detects that. It actually does dial back the settings for you, so on 110 your amperage will not go past 35 amps. Aside from that, you do get a manual, which is very good actually. I mean, there's some things in there that are worded a little funny, but overall it's very readable, very straightforward. And then you do get your consumables. There's a little flat bar style wrench in here, some Teflon tape, some hose clamps, and some tips and electrodes. So you really don't need any of this except for the tips and the electrodes because it's all installed already, and then of course there's no hose barbs to use the clamps on, or fittings needed to be installed to use the tape, but it's there. So that being said, let's go ahead and turn this thing on. We'll go over a couple features. You're going to notice something right away when I turn this machine on. It's quiet. This fan doesn't kick on until it needs to, so that's very nice. So first thing you're going to notice is I've got double zeros for PSI, and then this EOS flashing, as well as this red exclamation point. This is kind of an error indicator, and the error that we're getting now is because I don't have air hooked up to it. This is one of the other nice features about this machine. Without air hooked up, it won't work. It actually locks you out. So you're going to see that you've got 0 PSI. It's going to flash this, but you also cannot actually ignite the torch at all. So that prevents you from burning things up. And just make sure that you're ready to go before any electricity starts flowing anywhere. Let me get some air hooked up so we can see what's going on here. I've got air hooked up to the machine now, so now you can see 57 PSI. This gauge here will also change with this pressure. You can see we're on 220, And then I'm at 35 amps right now, but that's very easy to change here. It changes the digit display as well as this gauge over here on the side. So it's just a nice little added touch, makes it look like a very nice, clean, and well thought out display. Here you've got cut and then you've got air. So air just constantly runs air through the lead to cool it off if you're not going to be using it for a little bit or if you just used it for a long time. You've got 2T and 4T, which is just a push of this button to toggle those. And on this end, you've got your PT, which is your post flow. So I had it at 15 seconds, but you can dial that down to as little as 3. And you would want to adjust this because if you're using a small compressor, you don't want to waste a bunch of air and have that compressor continuously running if you can avoid it. But a longer post flow is going to save your consumables by keeping them a lot cooler and cooling them off faster before your next cut. And then you also have PA, which is pilot arc. This is the setting of how long a pilot arc will stay lit without being close enough to metal to sustain an arc. So basically, if you were to pull this trigger in the air, how long would that arc stay before the machine shut it off? So pilot arc adjustment allows you to adjust how long that pilot arc will sustain itself before shutting off. Why is that important? Well, if you're cutting perforated or expanded metal where you've got a lot of holes and gaps in it, your arc is going to shut off and then you're going to have to let go of the trigger and then reset the arc. With the pilot arc adjustment, it's automatically going to sustain that arc over those gaps. So you can actually keep your cut going through those voids without having to reset. That allows you to get a lot cleaner cut and get things done a little bit quicker. So again, it's these little features that are making this machine my favorite so far, just because it does so much in that $250 price range. So let's talk about my overall thoughts on this machine while I'm showing you some of the cut footage. I tried this on some very thin galvanized corrugated, and I was having some problems sustaining an arc. However, that was probably more so due to my settings and overall speed than anything, because I could get it to have some cuts that were good if I did my part and had that correct. When I switched over to the 1/4-inch plate, I got the settings dialed in with a couple test cuts, and then after that we were smooth sailing. You can see that plate right here. And I mean, this is a nice clean cut. I've got a close-up of that I'll show you now. You would have to clean off a little bit of slag on the back, but nothing crazy, and it'd be pretty simple with a flat disc or something similar. So overall, cut's great, has a lot of nice features for the price point. This retails for about $250 to $260. There's currently a sale going on it. There will be an affiliate link in the description below if you'd like to check that out. And I really think this is worth it over some of the other options out there. If you think about the Warfox that I've got over on my other plasma cutting table that I purchased myself, I paid about $225 for that, and it does not have anywhere near this amount of features. It's got just an amperage knob and an analog gauge, regulators on the back, and you know, it does the job, but it doesn't have those nice additional features. So for 25 bucks more than that machine was at the time, I would definitely go towards this machine if I were doing that over again. Luckily, I've got one now, so I'm going to continue to use this machine. This is going to become my main plasma cutter. As I said earlier, this is my third Cut 50 style machine. I've never had a problem with any of them. I just want to put that out there. You'll see people on the internet saying that they're Cut 50s, they're cheap, they're junk. I've never had an issue with them. As long as you know what you're doing and have all of your settings dialed in and you're doing what you should be doing, it will cut what it says it can cut, which is 1/2 inch at 50 amps. Now, when you get up into those thick materials, your technique plays a large role in getting a nice clean cut. So don't expect to pull this out of the box and be able to cut 1/2 inch plate. You're going to have to practice. Thinner materials, it's a lot easier to get a nice clean cut on these because you don't have all of that molten metal that needs to get out of the way, and your cutting speed is not as important, because you can just kind of crank the settings up a little higher and keep going to match your speed. But it takes a little bit of playing around. Nothing you can't learn in an hour or two, honestly. So definitely check one out if you've been thinking about it or on the fence about getting one. I think you'd be more than happy with this machine if you decided to add one to your garage or shop.